Your mind is constantly reacting to the latest notification, the newest worry. This cycle of short-term thinking can leave you feeling drained and disconnected from what truly matters. But there is an ancient antidote to this modern chaos, a form of mental conditioning designed to elevate your entire perspective on life. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This is not abstract philosophy, it is a practical key to lasting clarity. We are about to explore how Stoic principles like the dichotomy of control, resilient acceptance of what life brings, and unwavering virtue can rewire your mind for the long game. You will discover how to build an unshakable inner citadel, a fortress of calm that stands firm against life's inevitable seasons of change. How can a single shift in perspective transform your entire experience of challenge and growth? The first step in Stoic mental conditioning is a simple but profound act of sorting. It asks you to separate everything in your life into two distinct categories: what is within your power and what is not. Your own judgments, your values, your desires, and your actions, these belong squarely to you. Everything else, from the weather and traffic to the opinions of others and the final outcome of your efforts, these exist outside your command. This is the dichotomy of control, and it functions like a mental filter, instantly clearing away the clutter of needless worry. The ancient teacher Epictetus, who began his life in servitude, framed this as the very root of freedom. He said, "Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and aversion. Whatever is not of our own doing," he noted, "is not our concern." This is not a recipe for passivity, but for immense focus. It liberates your cognitive resources, directing all your energy toward the one arena where you are truly the architect, your own inner world. Think about a common source of modern anxiety, an important work presentation. You can spend days concerned over whether your boss will approve or if a colleague will question your ideas. These outcomes are not yours to decide. The Stoic approach redirects that energy inward. Your preparation, your practice, your clarity of thought, these are your domain. By investing fully in what you control, you build a foundation of confidence that remains steady regardless of the external reaction. So take a moment and bring to mind 3 things causing you stress right now. Write them down if you can. Now, draw that simple line. Which of these concerns fall into the category of your own judgments and actions, and which belong to the vast world of events you cannot command? Just this act of sorting begins the process of reclaiming your mental space for what truly matters. What if every setback was secretly a gift waiting to be unwrapped? This is the radical heart of the Stoic principle known as Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It asks you to go beyond mere acceptance of life's twists and turns, to actively embrace them as essential threads in the fabric of your long-term story. Where the dichotomy of control helps you sort what you can change, Amor Fati gives profound meaning to everything you cannot. It transforms obstacles into fuel and perceived misfortunes into the very raw materials for your growth. Marcus Aurelius, leading armies on a distant frontier, constantly reminded himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it contributes to the greater whole. He wrote of seeing the value in every event, viewing each moment as a necessary part of a grander, benevolent design. This is not about pretending hardship feels good, but about recognizing that a challenging event often forges a strength you would not have developed otherwise. Consider the historical figure of Epictetus. He was born into a life of servitude, his body permanently injured, yet he did not see himself as a victim of circumstance. He instead used his experience as the foundation for an unparalleled philosophy of inner freedom. His personal challenges became the source of his purpose, teaching generations that our limitations are often mental, not physical. His lectures, transcribed by a student, became a manual for resilience that outlived empires. Now, bring to mind a past difficulty from your own life, a moment that felt like a pure setback at the time. Perhaps it was a professional rejection, a personal transition, or an unexpected change of plans. Instead of focusing on the initial discomfort, gently ask yourself this. What is one positive long-term effect that ultimately grew from that experience? Maybe it taught you a deeper patience, redirected you to a better path, or revealed a hidden strength in your character. By reframing that chapter not as an interruption to your life, but as a vital part of its plot, you begin to write a narrative of resilience where every event, especially the difficult ones, adds a layer of depth and purpose to your perspective. Let's take a step back far beyond our daily concerns. Picture the Earth not as a map, but as a tiny, pale blue dot hanging in the immense blackness of space. From that vantage point, your city vanishes, your street disappears, and the meeting you are worried about becomes smaller than a single grain of sand. This is the essence of the Stoic view from above, a powerful mental exercise designed to quiet the self and restore a profound sense of equanimity. It is not about dismissing your feelings, but about placing them within a grander, more accurate context. Marcus Aurelius regularly practiced this, reminding himself to frequently consider the connection of all things in the universe. He would reflect on the vastness of time, noting how many empires have risen and fallen, their triumphs and disasters now just quiet stories in a book. Your own life, he would suggest, is a brief, beautiful moment in that endless flow. This perspective does not make your struggles meaningless. It makes them manageable by revealing their true, temporary scale. Both your deepest sorrows and your greatest joys are part of this fleeting human experience. To make this tangible, bring to mind a current worry, the one that feels so heavy and immediate. Now, in your mind, fast forward. See yourself 5 years from now, then 10. Look back at this present moment with the gentle clarity of distance. How does that challenge appear from there? What details have faded away, and what single lesson, if any, remains? You will likely find that the sharp edges of the problem have softened, leaving behind only the core insight it was meant to teach you. This is the gift of the long view. It allows you to navigate the present with the wisdom of your future self, recognizing that this too is merely a chapter, not the entire story. Stoics do not fear the worst, they prepare for it. This is the heart of a powerful mental exercise known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges. It may sound counterintuitive, even somber, but its purpose is the exact opposite: to strengthen your mind against anxiety and build a courage that remains steady through life's unpredictability. This is not about expecting difficulty, but about ensuring your long-term peace cannot be broken if it arrives. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely advised his friend Lucilius to spend some days in the most humble of circumstances, using only the simplest bread and plain clothing. He wrote that we should send ourselves into voluntary simplicity occasionally, not because we must, but so that we may learn to have a spirit that is untouched by any fear of ever being without. By mentally rehearsing the absence of comforts, of position, or even of people we hold dear, we accomplish two profound things. We strip those potential future events of their power to surprise us, and we at the same time cultivate a deep, lasting gratitude for what we have in this present moment. This practice makes you rich in spirit long before any material change could ever occur. Think about a difficult conversation you may be avoiding, perhaps with a family member or a colleague. The common approach is to worry endlessly about every possible thing that could go differently, letting the anxiety build until it becomes overwhelming. The Stoic approach is different. You sit down quietly and you walk through the scenario in your mind. You visualize the other person becoming upset or distant or disappointed. And then you calmly plan your response. You decide how you will remain anchored in your principles, how you will listen with patience, and how you will speak with reason and kindness regardless of their reaction. You are not rehearsing the tension, you are rehearsing your own unwavering virtue within the situation. This transforms the event from a source of worry into a moment you are prepared to meet with calm strength. So take a quiet moment and bring to mind a future scenario you are apprehensive about. Now, instead of pushing it away, invite it in. Walk through the sequence mentally, not to dwell on the unease, but to focus with absolute clarity on a single question. How would my best self, guided by reason and integrity, choose to respond at each step? By facing the possibility in your mind, you disarm its emotional charge and arm yourself with the only thing that truly matters, your own courageous and reasoned character. We are taught to focus on our goals, but Stoics focus on the process. This is a subtle but monumental shift in how we approach our ambitions. The core idea is to invest your entire self in the actions you take, while gently releasing your grip on the final outcome, which so often lies beyond your command. It is about doing the right thing for its own sake, not for the reward you hope it will bring. The teacher Epictetus put it with his characteristic clarity. He said that in any pursuit, your duty is to perform your part well. Whether you are praised or criticized for it, he noted, is the business of other people and therefore none of your own. This perspective is not a lack of care, it is a profound form of focus. It protects you from the emotional turbulence of outside opinions and builds a consistent, long-term commitment to right action, regardless of the immediate result. Think of a skilled archer drawing their bow. They can control their stance, their aim, the smooth release of the string. They have practiced for countless hours to master these elements. But once the arrow is in flight, a sudden gust of wind can push it off course, or a stray leaf might deflect it from the target. The final placement of that arrow is no longer in the archer's hands. A Stoic would say the archer's success is found entirely in the quality of their form and their focus, not in the arrow hitting the bullseye. To be disappointed by the wind is to misunderstand the nature of the task. Your life is filled with similar moments. You prepare thoroughly for a job interview. You speak with honesty and passion, but the final decision rests with the hiring manager. You can pour your heart into a creative project, yet its public reception is never guaranteed. When you tie your inner peace to a specific result, you hand over the keys to your well-being to forces you cannot influence. Bring to mind a goal you feel deeply attached to right now, something where the outcome feels critically important. Now, gently shift your attention. Instead of fixating on that desired endpoint, ask yourself this single question. What does doing this well, with integrity and full effort, look like in this very moment? What is the next right action, completely independent of how it might be received? By reframing your focus to the quality of your efforts alone, you reclaim your power. You build a quiet confidence that is not shaken by praise or blame, and you find a deeper, more enduring satisfaction in the work itself. This is how you cultivate a perspective that lasts a lifetime, not just until the next result comes in. Much of our struggle comes from wanting the wrong things. We chase after external markers of success, the approval of others, or perfect conditions, mistaking them for the source of our contentment. This endless pursuit of what we cannot reliably control is a recipe for inner unrest. The Stoics identified this as a core challenge and offered a powerful shift in perspective, which they called the discipline of desire. This is the practice of consciously retraining your wants and aversions to align only with what is genuinely good, your own virtue and reasoned choice. Your fulfillment is no longer tied to the unpredictable world outside, but is anchored in the one thing you can always command, the quality of your own character. The Stoic teacher Epictetus defined a truly well-educated person not by their knowledge, but by their longings. He said, "What defines such a person is that they apply desire and aversion only to what is within their power. They desire only what they ought to desire and are averse only to what they ought to avoid." This means your deepest aspirations are directed inward toward cultivating wisdom over being right, courage over comfort, justice over personal gain, and temperance over fleeting pleasure. When your greatest wish is to act with integrity, you carry a stable and self-sufficient source of satisfaction that no outside event can take from you. Consider the passing happiness of buying something new. The excitement is real, but it inevitably fades, often leaving a quiet emptiness that asks for the next purchase to fill it. Now contrast that with the lasting satisfaction of acting with integrity during a difficult conversation. You chose to speak with honesty and kindness, even when it was challenging. That choice strengthens your character. The memory of that action does not fade like the thrill of a new possession. Instead, it becomes a permanent part of your inner foundation, a brick in the unshakable citadel of your self-respect. This is the long-term fulfillment the discipline of desire builds, one thoughtful choice at a time. So take a quiet moment for a simple but powerful reflection. Look at the landscape of your own wants. What is one desire you currently hold that, if you were to gently let it go, would bring you significantly more peace? Is it the wish for a particular person to change their mind, for a specific outcome at work that is not yours to decide, or for life to be easier than it is right now? Simply noticing this longing and understanding that its fulfillment lies outside your direct control is the first step in retraining your mind. Releasing it does not mean giving up. It means choosing to invest your precious energy in the one pursuit that guarantees a return, the cultivation of your own inner excellence. Your mind is an inner stronghold. This is the Stoic metaphor of the inner citadel, a sanctuary of reason and calm built not of stone but of practiced thought. Its high walls are not meant to isolate you from the world, but to give you a vantage point from which you can observe life's complexity without being swept away by it. This stronghold is not a gift, it is a construction project you undertake every single day through the mental conditioning we have been exploring. Each time you apply the dichotomy of control, you add a stone to its foundation. Every moment you practice Amor Fati, you reinforce its gates against the pressures of circumstance. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this idea of an inner fortress, writing that the soul is a place of refuge which cannot be violated, for a person's true strength cannot be compelled from the outside so long as this inner space remains under their command. Your guiding center, your capacity for reasoned choice, is the heart of this stronghold, the final point of retreat that can never be taken unless you surrender it. Think of a high-pressure situation, a sudden challenge at work where a project is struggling and tensions are running high. The common reaction is panic, a flood of anxiety that clouds judgment and leads to reactive decisions. The person who has been building their inner stronghold reacts differently. They feel the same initial surge of alarm, but they retreat for a moment into their mental fortress. From that place of calm, they can assess the situation clearly. They sort the elements into what they can control, their next communication, their request for help, their focused effort, and what they cannot, the initial setback, the reactions of others. They see the obstacle not as a disaster, but as the way forward, a challenge to be met with resilience. Their composure is not a lack of feeling, but the result of a strengthened mind. So look at your own mental defenses. Where is one area that needs attention? A place where external events easily disturb your peace. Perhaps it is a sensitivity to criticism, or a tendency to worry about future finances, or a quickness to frustration in daily delays. Now select a single Stoic principle to act as your repair. If criticism shakes you, practice the discipline of desire, releasing your need for universal approval and focusing only on the integrity of your own effort. If financial concern intrudes, apply the view from above, seeing this matter in the vast scale of your entire life. By consciously reinforcing this one vulnerable point, you are not just fixing a crack, you are actively building a perspective that will shelter you for a lifetime. This might sound counterintuitive, but imagining absence is a fast track to appreciation. The Stoics called this practice negative visualization, and its purpose is profoundly life-affirming. It is not about dwelling on sadness, but about awakening to the vibrant reality of what you already have. By periodically and consciously picturing life without the people, the health, or the comforts you value, you perform a kind of emotional alchemy. You transform ordinary presence into a source of deep, active gratitude. The philosopher Seneca captured this beautifully when he advised that we should enjoy the things we have as if we might one day no longer have them. He was not speaking from a place of fear, but from a profound understanding of life's natural transitions. Everything we have is on loan from the world, and remembering this temporary nature does not spoil our enjoyment, it intensifies it. It pulls our attention from a future we cannot control and plants it firmly, gratefully, in the richness of the present moment. Think of watching a beautiful sunset. You know it is temporary, that the colors will fade in minutes. This knowledge does not make the experience depressing, it makes it more precious. You pay closer attention, you feel a deeper sense of wonder precisely because you know it will not last. Negative visualization applies this same conscious awareness to every valuable part of your life. It prepares your mind for the possibility of change, not by filling you with dread, but by building a resilient gratitude that can withstand life's inevitable seasons. Try a simple exercise tonight. As your day winds down, bring to mind one thing you deeply value but often take for granted. It could be the presence of a loved one, the ability to walk freely, or the comfort of your own home. Now, for just a moment, allow yourself to gently picture what your life would feel like without it. Do not dwell on difficulty, but simply acknowledge the space its absence would create. Then open your eyes or return your focus to the present. Notice the immediate shift in feeling, the warmth of renewed appreciation that flows in. This is not a heavy ritual, it is a practice in seeing clearly. It is how you cultivate a perspective where nothing is ordinary, and every day is filled with gifts you are fully awake to receive. The first reaction is often the problem. Stoics practice a pause between the event itself and your internal judgment of it. There exists a crucial space, a moment of pure perception. Most of us fill that space automatically with a story, a label, a snap decision about whether what just happened is good or bad. This immediate labeling is what ignites our emotional reactions, sending us spiraling into anger, anxiety, or despair before we have even had a chance to see the situation clearly. The Stoic practice is to insert a deliberate moment of suspension, to simply observe the raw facts before the mind rushes in to color them with its own narrative. Marcus Aurelius captured this power with stunning simplicity when he wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. The event itself is neutral until your judgment assigns it the power to affect you." This is not about suppressing emotion, but about reclaiming the authority to decide what things mean. It is the difference between seeing a rainy day as a personal inconvenience that changes your plans and seeing it simply as water falling from the sky, an event that is neither good nor bad until you choose how to relate to it. Consider the common experience of being cut off in traffic. The raw, objective fact is that a vehicle changed lanes abruptly in front of you. The automatic, unchecked judgment is that this was a personal insult, an act of aggression by a careless individual. That story triggers a surge of frustration, your heart rate climbs, and your entire mood shifts. Now apply the Stoic pause. The event remains the same, a car changed lanes. But by withholding the judgment of it being a personal attack, you drain it of its emotional charge. You see it for what it is, a simple maneuver by another driver, likely lost in their own thoughts, that requires nothing more from you than a calm, defensive adjustment. The situation has not changed, but your entire experience of it has, preserving your mental clarity for the long drive ahead. Your challenge today is to become a detective of your own judgments. Catch yourself just once when you feel that initial flare of negativity, whether from a critical comment, a delayed appointment, or a sudden change of plans. In that moment, pause and state the facts to yourself in the plainest, most neutral language possible. Someone expressed an opinion. A meeting is starting later than expected. The plan has been altered. By stripping away the loaded interpretation, even for a few seconds, you create an opening for a reasoned response to emerge, one that serves your long-term peace rather than your immediate reaction. For a Stoic, success is not about what you have, but who you are. This single idea reframes the entire purpose of your long-term journey. The philosophy holds that there is only one true good in life, and it is not your health, your wealth, or your public standing. It is your moral excellence, your unwavering virtue. Everything else is classified as preferred or dispreferred, meaning it can be useful or enjoyable, but it has no bearing on your fundamental worth or your capacity for a good life. This belief system completely reorients your goals away from the shifting sands of external validation and toward the unshakable foundation of your own character. Your long-term perspective is no longer tied to acquiring things you might lose, but to becoming someone you can always respect. The teacher Epictetus, who lived with a physical limitation, illustrated this with powerful clarity. He stated that lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will. His point was profound. A physical condition, a lack of resources, or a damaged reputation can certainly create challenges in the external world. Yet none of these things can prevent your will from choosing courage over fear, justice over unfairness, or wisdom over ignorance. Your virtue operates in a separate, inviolable space. Consider two individuals on different paths. One person acquires great wealth through dishonest means, gaining every material comfort while sacrificing their integrity. Another person lives with very little, yet consistently chooses honesty and fairness, even when it costs them. From a conventional viewpoint, the first person might be called successful. From the Stoic perspective, the second person is the only one who is truly wealthy, because they possess the only thing of real and lasting value, a good character. The first has built their life on a foundation that can crumble with a single shift in fortune, while the second has built an inner citadel that stands firm through any storm. So here is a question to sit with, one that speaks to the legacy you are building every day. If you could only be remembered for one character trait, one quality of your inner self, what would you want it to be? Would it be your integrity, your courage, your compassion? That single answer points directly toward what you genuinely value most, and it reveals the North Star for your own long-term perspective. Your power exists only now, not later, not before. The past is a collection of memories you can no longer change, and the future is a realm of possibilities you cannot yet command. The single, undeniable point where your will intersects with the world is this very moment. This present instant is the exclusive arena for your virtue, the only place where your reasoned choices can ever take form. Dwelling too much on what has already happened can feed regret, while focusing only on what may come next can stir up worry. Both states pull you out of the one dimension where you are truly sovereign. The Stoic focus on the present is the ultimate antidote to procrastination because it asks not for a grand, sweeping plan, but for the next right action taken immediately. It channels all your scattered energy into the small, consistent steps that, over time, build an unshakable long-term perspective. The philosopher Seneca wrote with striking urgency about our most finite resource. He said that people are careful in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to the use of time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be mindful. He observed that we sometimes act as if we will live forever, putting off our best intentions for a tomorrow that is never guaranteed. This is not a call for panic, but for presence. It is an invitation to stop leasing out your life to future dates and to start fully inhabiting the day you are actually given. When you feel overwhelmed by the scale of your long-term goals, by the shadow of the past or the uncertainty of the future, there is a simple, grounding question you can ask. What is the one meaningful thing I can do right in this moment? The answer is never a monumental task. It might be to send a single kind message, to take 5 minutes for focused work, to drink a glass of water, or to simply pause and take 3 conscious breaths. That small present moment action, chosen with integrity, is a brick laid in the foundation of your character. It is a direct exercise of your control, and it builds momentum that carries you forward. Try this for just the next 60 seconds. Wherever you are, stop. Notice the physical sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body. Observe the sounds around you without labeling them as good or bad. Feel the weight of your body in your chair, the texture of your clothes against your skin. Do not try to change anything. Just be an attentive witness to the reality of this single minute. In that space of pure observation without judgment, you will find a quiet center of command. You have just visited the only place where your life is ever actually lived, and where your long-term perspective is built, one present moment at a time. Contrary to what you might think, remembering our shared human journey makes life richer. This ancient Stoic practice, known as Memento Mori, is not a dark fixation but a bright light cast upon what truly matters. It is the ultimate tool for cutting through the noise of trivial concerns and clarifying your deepest priorities. When you hold the awareness of your own finite time as a gentle companion, it instills a powerful and urgent drive to live a life of meaning, not just to pass the days. Marcus Aurelius regularly turned this thought over in his mind, writing that you could leave life right now and let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not speaking from a place of fear, but from a profound understanding that this awareness is a liberating force. It helps you release petty anxieties about reputation and minor irritations, because from the perspective of a life's final chapter, such concerns lose their weight and their power to disturb your peace. This principle finds a powerful echo in modern productivity, though the Stoic aim is far deeper than mere efficiency. It is not about checking more tasks off a list, but about ensuring the list itself is worth your precious and limited time. It asks whether your daily actions are aligned with your core values, or if you are simply staying busy while postponing what you genuinely find meaningful. So let this question settle in your mind, not as a source of alarm, but as a gentle and urgent guide for your perspective. If you knew for certain you had 1 year left to live, what is one thing you would start doing today and one thing you would stop? The starting might be a conversation you have been avoiding, a creative project you have delayed, or simply more presence with the people you love. The stopping might be a grudge you are holding, the endless pursuit of others' approval, or the habit of worrying about things you cannot change. Your honest answers are not about a hypothetical future. They are a direct map to the life you are being called to live right now. Stoics voluntarily step into discomfort to become stronger. Think of this not as self-denial, but as a form of mental and physical training, a way to build a resilient core that remains unshaken when life inevitably brings challenges you did not choose. This practice, often called voluntary discomfort, functions like a psychological preparation. By willingly exposing yourself to manageable experiences of effort, you develop a kind of inner strength against the fear of future difficulty. You prove to yourself in a direct and tangible way that your well-being does not depend on perfect conditions. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this. He taught that practicing simpler living is better than facing it only when it arrives, and that practicing effort is the same. His point was profound. If you have already familiarized yourself with a more basic way of life, the sudden absence of a luxury does not become a crisis. It is merely a return to a state you already know you can handle with grace. Seneca echoed this, advising that we should periodically adopt a lifestyle of plain food and humble clothing. He wrote that we do this to strengthen ourselves against unexpected turns of events, so that fortune may not take us by surprise. This is about building a deep-seated confidence that comes from knowing you are sufficient, with or without the comfort you currently enjoy. The goal is not to live in constant austerity, but to loosen the grip of dependency that can make us fearful. Consider how a simple, cool shower can become a training ground. The initial shift is real, a jolt to the system, but in that moment you have a choice. You can react with surprise and retreat, or you can steady your breath and stand firm. By choosing to stay, even for a few seconds longer than feels comfortable, you are not just getting clean. You are sending a powerful message to your deepest self. You are demonstrating that a minor physical sensation does not have the authority to dictate your emotional state. You are building the same mental muscle that will help you stay calm during a stressful work deadline or a difficult personal conversation. This week, choose one small comfort to voluntarily set aside. It could be taking a slightly cooler shower, skipping a routine snack, or walking instead of driving a short distance. The action itself is unimportant. What matters is the conscious act of choosing it. As you do, observe your internal reaction without judgment. Notice any resistance, any voice that says this is unnecessary or unpleasant. Then gently acknowledge that voice and proceed anyway. This small act is a direct deposit into your long-term resilience, a practical step toward a perspective where your peace is built from within, independent of the ever-changing world outside. Stoics see themselves not as isolated individuals, but as cells in a vast, living cosmos. This worldview, known as Apatheia, suggests that every part of the universe is woven together in a single, rational fabric, and your life is one essential thread in that grand design. This is not a mystical belief, but a practical lens that reshapes your entire perspective on your place in the world. It replaces a sense of lonely separation with a profound feeling of belonging to something magnificent and purposeful. Marcus Aurelius often returned to this theme in his private writings, reminding himself that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. He saw his own actions, even his most challenging duties as emperor, as contributions to the health of the entire human community. He wrote that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful or to turn away. This interconnectedness is the source of our deepest sense of duty. When you understand that your well-being is tied to the well-being of the whole, your long-term perspective naturally expands to consider the impact of your choices on the wider world. You begin to ask not just what is good for you, but what is good for the community, for the environment, for the generations that will follow. This is visible in the modern environmentalist who champions sustainability not out of abstract obligation, but from a felt understanding that we are part of the natural world we seek to protect. It is present in the volunteer who serves their local community, recognizing that strengthening the social fabric ultimately strengthens their own life. These are not separate acts of charity. They are expressions of our fundamental nature as social, rational beings acting in harmony with a connected cosmos. So take a quiet moment to trace a single thread from your own life out into the wider world. Pick one simple action from your day, perhaps a purchase you made, a word you shared, or a piece of trash you chose to discard. Now gently follow its ripple. How might that small choice, multiplied by millions of others like it, affect the collective whole for better or for worse? This is not about guilt, but about awakening to your power as a vital part of a living universe, and the quiet dignity that comes from choosing to act as a good citizen of the cosmos. The day is over. Now it is time for the most important meeting with yourself. This is the ancient Stoic practice of the evening review, a quiet conversation at day's end where you hold your own actions up to the clear light of reason. It is not about self-criticism, but about self-correction, a daily debrief designed to accelerate your growth and steadily refine your character over a lifetime. The Roman philosopher Seneca made this a non-negotiable part of his routine. He wrote of how he would examine his entire day, going back over what he had done and said, hiding nothing from himself, passing nothing by. He asked himself pointed questions. What habits had he improved that day? What challenges had he faced? And in what aspect could he say he was better? His goal was simple and profound: to sleep a cleaner, more peaceful sleep, and to wake with a clearer direction for the day to come. The power of this practice lies in its consistency. A single reflection offers a glimpse, but a nightly review builds a detailed map of your own soul, revealing patterns in your reactions and highlighting where your inner strength needs reinforcement. To begin, you need only a quiet space and 5 minutes. Ask yourself 3 straightforward questions. First, where did my actions align with my principles today? This is not about grand achievements, but about moments of integrity, perhaps a patience you showed in a frustrating moment, or a kindness you offered without expectation. Acknowledging these reinforces the habits you want to grow. Second, where did I fall short of my own standards? Be honest but gentle. Did a thoughtless word escape? Did I surrender to a lazy impulse? Or did I allow an external event to disturb my peace more than was necessary? The purpose is not to dwell on regret, but to clearly identify the misstep, much like a craftsman noting a flaw in their work so they can avoid it tomorrow. Finally, and most importantly, what is one specific step I can take to improve tomorrow? This turns reflection into immediate, practical action. If you were quick to frustration today, your step for tomorrow might be to pause for 3 breaths before responding to a provocation. This closes the loop, transforming a daily review from a passive analysis into an active training regimen for your mind. Your challenge is to make this meeting with yourself a non-negotiable appointment for the next 3 nights. In just 5 minutes each evening, you will begin to write the story of your own long-term evolution, one reviewed day at a time. The Stoic sage is unmoved by applause and unfazed by criticism. This state of steady calm, known as Apatheia, is the crowning achievement of mental conditioning, a quiet harbor in the storm of ever-changing results. It is not a cold indifference to life, but a profound emotional stability that keeps your inner compass pointing true north. regardless of whether external fortune is showering you with praise or testing you with setbacks. Your core worth remains untouched by these temporary conditions, anchored securely in your character rather than your circumstances. This prevents the dizzying highs of success from distorting your judgment and the difficult moments of challenge from derailing your long-term purpose. The teacher Epictetus, who understood the fickleness of public opinion, offered clear guidance. He said, "If you hear that someone is speaking ill of you, do not defend yourself against the things they say, but instead reply, 'They are clearly unaware of my other faults, for if they were not, they would not have mentioned only these.'" His point was not to encourage self-criticism, but to disarm the power of both praise and blame. When you stop seeking validation from one, you become immune to the damage of the other. Your self-assessment becomes the only one that holds any real weight. Think of a champion athlete after a major competition. The world watches how they handle the outcome. After a victory, the stoic-minded athlete does not become arrogant or boastful. They celebrate the effort of their team and the quality of the performance, understanding that the win itself was partly dependent on factors beyond their control, like the condition of the field or a competitor's error. Their focus remains on the process, the years of disciplined training that led to that moment. After a loss, the same athlete does not collapse in despair or lash out in blame. They feel the natural disappointment, but then they calmly analyze their own performance. What went well in their preparation? Where did their technique falter? What can they improve for the next challenge? The result, the trophy or the setback, becomes data for growth, not a verdict on their identity. Now, bring to mind a recent event in your own life that felt like a clear win or a loss. It could be a project at work that was either praised or questioned, a personal goal you met or missed. Gently examine your own reaction. Did your sense of self-worth rise and fall with that external outcome? Did a compliment make you feel temporarily more confident? Or did a piece of constructive feedback make you question your fundamental capabilities? Simply observing this connection without judgment is the first step toward loosening its grip. When you can stand firm in both sunshine and rain, you possess a quiet strength that no outcome can ever give or take away. You cannot control your reputation, but you can always control your motives. This is a liberating truth at the heart of Stoic mental conditioning, one that shifts your entire focus from managing external perceptions to mastering your internal intentions. When your primary concern is acting with integrity rather than being seen as good, you step out of the approval trap and into a space of genuine freedom. Your actions become guided by your long-term values, not by the shifting winds of popular opinion. This is how you build a life that is authentically your own, not a performance for an unseen audience. Marcus Aurelius captured this with his characteristic clarity, writing in his private journal that it can be ruinous to bother about what other people are saying and doing. He reminded himself that your only concern should be that you do not act in a way unworthy of your inner guiding principle. He saw the endless worry over reputation as a distraction from the one task that truly mattered, tending to the quality of his own character. Imagine the dilemma of holding an unpopular opinion in a group setting, perhaps a team meeting where a popular but flawed plan is gaining momentum. You see a potential problem everyone else is overlooking. The common impulse is to stay silent, to avoid the social friction and potential judgment that speaking up might bring. The Stoic approach is to focus solely on your intention. Is your motive to serve the truth and the good of the group, or is it to protect your own social standing? If your intention is rooted in virtue and a desire to contribute, then the action itself, speaking the difficult truth, becomes its own reward. The reaction of your colleagues, whether they agree or disagree, praise or criticize, belongs to the category of things outside your command. their judgment does not change the worth of your well-intentioned act. This focus on intention over reputation is what allows for courageous action throughout history, from the whistleblower who risks their career to expose a wrongdoing to the artist who creates work that challenges convention. Their peace comes not from universal acclaim, but from the quiet knowledge that they acted in alignment with their principles. So bring to mind one action you are currently hesitating on, something you know is right but fear may draw misunderstanding or disapproval from others. It might be a difficult conversation you need to initiate, a creative idea you are afraid to share, or a boundary you need to set. Now, gently shift your attention away from the potential reactions and turn it inward. Ask yourself one simple question. If no one were ever to know about this action or to judge it, would I still feel it is the right thing to do? Your honest answer reveals the purity of your intention and points the way toward a decision that strengthens rather than compromises your long-term perspective. Your character is a sculpture you refine across an entire lifetime. This is not a project of swift creation but of patient, daily craftsmanship, where the goal is not a flawless final product but the integrity of the effort itself. Every choice you make, every challenge you face, becomes a tool that either shapes the marble or merely dusts its surface. The long-term perspective of Stoicism redefines the very purpose of hardship. A setback is no longer something to be avoided, but the essential chisel that reveals strength and definition you did not know you possessed. It is the resistance that allows the final form to emerge. Seneca, in his letters, captured this beautifully by comparing a wise person to a skilled sea captain. He wrote that while a novice might be terrified by a storm, the expert sailor uses those very winds to demonstrate their art. The gale is the same for both, but the seasoned pilot knows how to harness its force, turning a potential disaster into a display of mastery. The storm, in this metaphor, is any life challenge. Your character is the ship, and your practiced virtue is the skill of the captain. You learn to navigate not in spite of the difficulty, but by using its energy to propel you forward. Consider the slow, steady process of building physical fitness. You do not walk into a gym for the first time and lift the heaviest weight. You start with what you can manage, and sometimes you feel the effort, you sense the challenge, and you may not complete a set. Yet that momentary struggle is not proof of weakness. It is the signal that tells your muscles to grow stronger. Your character develops in the very same way. A moment of patience exercised in frustration, an act of courage mustered in fear, a choice of integrity made under pressure. These are the repetitions that build the mental and moral muscle for the long game. So bring your attention to the arc of your own life. Looking back over the last 5 years, in what specific way has your character grown stronger? Perhaps you find you are less easily offended by criticism, viewing it now as potential information rather than a personal attack. Maybe you have discovered a deeper well of resilience, realizing that you can navigate more than you once believed possible. Or it could be a quiet but steady increase in your compassion, a greater capacity to understand another's perspective without immediately needing to defend your own. That specific strength, whatever it may be, is the unique shape your sculpture is taking, the living proof that you are not just passing through time, but actively carving a character meant to last. The obstacle is not in the way, it is the way. This Stoic axiom reframes every barrier you encounter from a blockade into a building material, a puzzle that demands your creativity and strengthens your resolve. Where Amor Fati teaches you to love your fate, this principle gives you the tools to actively construct a better path with the very stones that were meant to trip you. It is the ultimate expression of a proactive long-term perspective, where your growth is not delayed by difficulty but accelerated by it. Marcus Aurelius, facing relentless political and military pressures, wrote a powerful reminder to himself. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He understood that a challenge does not interrupt your journey. It defines its direction and forges the character necessary to complete it. This is not passive acceptance. It is an alchemical process of transforming setbacks into golden opportunity. History offers a profound example in the life of the philosopher Seneca. He was sent to the island of Corsica, a situation that separated him from his wealth, status, and proximity to power in Rome. From a conventional viewpoint, his career appeared over, his influence diminished. Yet Seneca did not see this time as an endpoint. He treated it as a forced retreat, a space of quiet where he could dedicate himself entirely to writing and philosophical contemplation. It was during this period of imposed isolation that he produced some of his most enduring works, letters and essays that would go on to inspire countless generations. The obstacle of his time away became the very condition that allowed his most important contributions to take shape. He used the raw material of his situation to build a legacy of wisdom that far outshone the political influence he had lost. Now bring this principle into your own life. Identify one single current obstacle that feels like a frustration or a limitation. It might be a demanding workload, a strained relationship, or a personal challenge you are facing. Do not simply accept its presence, but engage with it creatively. Ask yourself this one question: what hidden advantage might this situation be forcing upon me? A demanding workload could be secretly training you in unparalleled focus and efficiency. A strained relationship might be teaching you deeper patience and the art of communication. A personal challenge could be directing you toward a strength you have neglected. By searching for the hidden advantage, you stop fighting the obstacle and start collaborating with it, turning your problem into your most unexpected partner in building a resilient and empowered future. Everything you see around you, including you, is in a state of flux. This is not a philosophical abstraction, but a physical reality, the quiet rhythm of existence itself. The ancient Stoics built their long-term perspective on this foundational truth, systematically contemplating the changing nature of all external things to cultivate a profound and lasting non-attachment. They understood that deeply internalizing this reality, not as a source of sadness but as a simple fact of nature, is what loosens the grip of fear and desperate clinging. When you truly know that everything from your wealth to your health is on temporary loan from the world, you stop trying to build your peace upon such shifting ground. This realization is what allows for a calmer, more generous engagement with life, because you are no longer fighting a battle against the inevitable tide of change. The Stoics drew inspiration from the pre-Socratic thinker Heraclitus, who observed that everything flows and nothing abides. Marcus Aurelius expanded on this, frequently reflecting on the river of time and all the things it carries away. He wrote of how all that we prize is transient and trivial, and how soon we will be forgotten, just as the great names of the past have faded into whispers. This was not morbid for him, it was clarifying. It helped him focus his energy not on preserving what could not be preserved, but on acting with virtue in the time he was given. Think of a child building an elaborate sandcastle on the beach. They invest their full attention in its construction, shaping the towers and digging the moat with care and creativity. They take joy in its temporary beauty, and yet they understand intuitively that the tide will eventually come in. This knowledge does not ruin their play, it frames it. They build it beautifully, they enjoy it fully, and then they let it go when the water returns, carrying the memory of the creation without the pain of its loss. This is the spirit of non-attachment. Your life, with all its cherished relationships, accomplishments, and possessions, is that sandcastle. The goal is not to avoid building it, but to build it with all your heart while holding its temporary nature with open hands. So find a quiet moment today to look at one prized possession, something you feel a particular attachment to. Hold it, look at it, and then gently contemplate its journey. Where will this object be in 100 years? Who might hold it then, or will it have returned to the elements from which it came? And then extend that same gentle curiosity to your own story. This is not meant to diminish the value of your life, but to magnify the incredible privilege of this present moment within the vast, flowing river of time. By facing impermanence with clear eyes, you free yourself to live with more courage and less fear, building a perspective that is not eroded by change, but enriched by it. Stoics are not emotionless, they are simply no longer enslaved by their feelings. This is the true meaning of Apatheia, a state often misunderstood as cold indifference. In reality, it represents a profound inner freedom from the overwhelming storms of irrational passion that can cloud our judgment and shift our long-term perspective. The Stoics wisely distinguished between our initial, involuntary reactions and the full emotional fires we choose to fuel. They called the first stirrings proto-passions, that sudden flash of heat when you feel challenged or the quick pang of concern before a major event. These are natural human reflexes. The difficulty lies not in feeling them, but in giving them your full mental assent, in weaving a story around them that justifies an outburst of frustration or a spiral of discouragement. The goal is to acknowledge that initial flicker without handing it the keys to your mind, preserving the clarity needed to make decisions that serve your future self. Seneca, in his powerful work on anger, describes this unchecked emotion as a temporary loss of balance. He writes that no influence has been more costly for the human race, that it is a brief confusion that forgets all sense of connection and lets go of everything that had been gained. In clear contrast, he paints a portrait of the sage, the ideal Stoic, who meets life's provocations with a serene and steady mind, not because they do not feel, but because their reason remains firmly in command. Consider a common scenario. A colleague publicly takes credit for your idea during a meeting. The proto-passion is that immediate surge of heat, the feeling of unfairness. The unchecked passion is the frustration that follows, the mental narrative of letdown that compels you to react in the moment, creating a professional difficulty that could affect relationships for years. The Stoic response acknowledges the initial sting but does not assent to the irritation. It allows for a pause, a breath. From that space of clarity, you might later choose to have a calm, private conversation, addressing the issue with factual precision rather than emotional charge. The outcome of the first path is lasting strain and regret, while the second protects your peace and your reputation, guiding you toward a resolution that aligns with your long-term values. So take a quiet moment to look inward. Identify one unhelpful passion, perhaps a simmering frustration or a habit of comparison, that you feel has held too much sway over your inner world. Simply giving it a name is the first act of reclaiming your freedom from it. The Stoic is always on guard, not against others, but against their own unexamined thoughts. This vigilant self-awareness is the ancient practice of Prosoche, a continuous and gentle attention paid to the flow of your inner world. It is the master skill that makes every other Stoic principle possible, the watchful presence that catches a judgment before it becomes a reaction, and an impression before it spirals into a difficult feeling. Prosoche is the quality of attention that allows for immediate course correction, turning each moment into a potential lesson and steadily accumulating wisdom over an entire lifetime. The teacher Epictetus placed this practice at the very center of the philosophical life. He taught that the chief task we have is this: to carefully sort our impressions and to guard our own mind against being swept away by them. He was not telling us to stop having impressions, but to stop granting them our automatic belief. Every external event first strikes us as a simple impression, a raw piece of data. It is your faculty of judgment that instantly labels that data as good or bad, desirable or terrible. Prosoche is the art of inserting a moment of space between the impression and your assent, creating just enough room to ask a simple but powerful question. Is this truly within my control, and is my initial judgment serving my long-term peace? You can begin weaving this practice into your day with a simple, physical anchor. Choose something you do frequently, like checking your posture whenever you sit down or noticing the sensation of your breath before you speak. These are not just physical adjustments, they are deliberate acts of returning your attention to the present moment and your own inner state. Each time you remember to straighten your spine or take a conscious breath, you are performing a repetition of Prosoche, strengthening your ability to witness your thoughts without being carried away by them. For a more direct challenge, try this for just 1 hour today. Become a detective of your own judgments. Notice every time you silently label something as good or bad. The traffic is terrible, this coffee is perfect, that comment was unkind. Each time you catch yourself, gently pause and question the validity of that label. Is the traffic truly terrible, or is it simply traffic, a neutral circumstance that I have judged as an inconvenience? Is that comment inherently unkind, or is it merely words that I have interpreted through my own sensitivity? This is not about suppressing your perceptions, but about reclaiming your authority over them. By questioning the stories you tell yourself, you loosen their grip, and you start to see the world and your place in it with a clarity that is both liberating and profoundly calm. No man is an island, and for a Stoic, personal growth is deeply connected to service. Your inner citadel is not a private fortress meant for you alone, but a central wellspring from which you draw strength to contribute to the world around you. The Stoics identified justice as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, viewing it not as a set of rules but as the active recognition of our shared humanity. A long-term perspective that focuses only on your own peace is incomplete. It must expand to include your essential role within the vast human community. Acting justly is how you align your life with the rational and social nature you possess, and in doing so, you build a legacy of meaning that extends far beyond your individual years. Marcus Aurelius, who carried the immense weight of an empire, often returned to this theme in his private writings. He reminded himself that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. He saw his own actions as contributions to the health of the whole, writing that we are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. To act against one another, he noted, is to act against nature itself. This interconnectedness is the source of our deepest sense of duty. When you understand that your well-being is tied to the well-being of others, your long-term perspective naturally widens to consider the impact of your choices on the wider world. Everyday acts of fairness, kindness, and honesty are not merely nice extras you perform when it is convenient. For the Stoic, they are essential exercises in living according to your nature. Holding the door for a stranger, listening patiently to a colleague, choosing honesty in a situation where a lie would be easier, these are not small things. They are the practical repetitions that build your moral strength for justice, reinforcing your identity as a person who contributes to the common good. So here is a question to carry with you today. What is one small, just action you can take that benefits someone else with no expectation of anything in return? It could be a thoughtful message of encouragement, a moment of your full attention for someone who needs it, or a quiet act of fairness that no one else may ever see. That single choice, made with conscious intent, is how you weave your thread into the enduring fabric of a better world. In the Stoic worldview, your reason is your king, your guide, and your most powerful tool. This faculty, which they called logos, is far more than simple logic. It is the divine spark within you, a fragment of the very intelligence that orders the cosmos, gifted to you for a singular and profound purpose. To align your will with nature's grand design and to perceive the path of virtue with unwavering clarity. When you place this inner sovereign in command, your life ceases to be a series of reactions to external chaos and becomes a coherent narrative of your own principled design. The teacher Epictetus, who spoke of this with reverence, described our portion of reason as a fragment of Zeus himself. He taught that this godlike capacity was given to us not for idle speculation, but to be used as a compass for navigating the entire world. It is the lens through which we interpret every event, the judge that weighs every desire, and the architect that builds a life of meaning from the raw materials of our daily choices. Trusting this inner guide leads to decisions that are consistent with your deepest values, creating a long-term trajectory of fulfillment that a life tossed by the waves of whim and raw feeling can never achieve. Consider the starkly different outcomes of two approaches to the same difficult situation. Imagine receiving a sharply worded email from a colleague. The impulsive, emotionally driven response is to fire back an immediate reply, fueled by the heat of perceived disrespect. This action might offer a fleeting sense of vindication, but it often poisons a professional relationship, creates lasting tension, and damages your own reputation for composure. Now contrast that with the reasoned approach. You feel the same initial sting, the same flash of heat, but instead of granting that feeling automatic control, you turn to your inner sovereign. You pause, you step away from the screen, you use your reason to interrogate the situation. Was the intent truly malicious, or could this be a case of simple haste or poor phrasing? What is the ultimate outcome I desire? A momentary release of frustration or a constructive resolution? From this calm center, you draft a response that is factual, measured, and seeks clarity rather than conflict. The first path builds a legacy of burned bridges, while the second builds a foundation of respected character. Think back now to a recent decision you regret, a choice that did not turn out as you had hoped. Gently, without self-judgment, examine the moment you made it. Can you identify the point where a strong feeling, perhaps fear, excitement, or frustration, overrode the quiet voice of your better judgment? That simple act of recognition is not about dwelling on the past, but about honoring the sovereignty of your reason for the countless choices still to come. Stoics believe the universe is not chaotic, but ordered and good. This profound trust in a rational cosmos is the bedrock of their long-term perspective, a quiet conviction that every event, even those we perceive as painful or unjust, is woven into a benevolent whole. It is the ultimate act of mental conditioning to release your personal struggle against the current of nature and instead learn to flow with its direction. This is not a passive surrender, but an active alignment with a reality far grander than our individual desires. The Stoic philosopher Cleanthes captured this sentiment in his beautiful hymn to Zeus, writing that no deed is done on earth without your office, nor in the divine ethereal sky, nor upon the sea, save what misguided people do in their own confusion. He saw the universe itself as a manifestation of divine reason, a coherent system where everything has its place and purpose, even actions born from human misunderstanding. This perspective provides a deep and abiding sense of security, a feeling of being held within a meaningful story rather than being cast adrift in a sea of random chance. It allows you to engage with life's challenges without the underlying fear that your efforts are ultimately without meaning. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom with the concept of radical acceptance, a practice of fully embracing reality as it is without judgment or resistance. When faced with a personal health situation, for instance, the initial reaction might be one of frustration or a wish for things to be different. Radical acceptance, guided by the Stoic view, does not mean you prefer the situation. It means you stop fighting the unchangeable fact of its presence. You accept the diagnosis as the new starting point, and from that place of clear-eyed truth, you can then direct all your energy toward the aspects of care, mindset, and daily living that remain within your power. This same principle applies to wider events that feel overwhelming, from economic shifts to environmental considerations. We can acknowledge the reality of the situation, feel concern, and choose to act where we are able, all while trusting that our individual efforts are part of a larger, unfolding process we cannot fully see. Bring to mind one specific circumstance in your own life that you find difficult to accept, a source of recurring frustration or sadness. For a moment, set aside the wish that it were different. Instead, gently ask yourself, if I were to view this event as a necessary, if challenging, chapter in a larger story being written about my life, what potential meaning or purpose might it hold? Perhaps it is teaching you a patience you have long needed, redirecting your path toward a more authentic calling, or simply preparing your spirit for a future challenge. By reframing your resistance into a search for context, you do not erase the hardship, but you begin to integrate it into the narrative of your growth, finding a quiet peace in the natural order of things. To see the long game clearly, you must sometimes step away from the field. This strategic retreat into quiet and reflection is a core Stoic discipline, a purposeful withdrawal that is not about running from life, but about returning to it with renewed clarity and strength. In a world that prizes constant connection and noise, these still moments become the essential space where your mind can consolidate its learning, process its experiences, and hear the quiet voice of your own inner guide. This is not escapism, it is the mental conditioning required to prevent exhaustion and maintain a perspective that spans years, not just hours. Seneca wrote extensively about the profound value of this practice in his letters. He described solitude as the time for conversation with oneself and with the great thinkers of the past through their writings. He saw it as an opportunity to sort out your own mind, to examine your day, and to strengthen your principles away from the influence of the crowd. He advised his friend Lucilius to make himself a recluse for a portion of his life, not permanently, but in regular intervals for the sake of his own inner freedom. The goal is to create a sanctuary where you are not performing for anyone, where your thoughts can unfold without judgment or interruption. A wonderfully simple place to begin is with a 15-minute daily walk, taken entirely alone and without the distraction of a phone or a podcast. The objective is not physical exercise but mental space. As you walk, you are not trying to force any specific insight. You are simply allowing your mind to wander, to settle, and to speak to you without competition. You might find yourself replaying a conversation from the morning, or a concern about tomorrow might surface. Instead of pushing it away, observe it with gentle curiosity. Often, it is in this unstructured silence that a solution to a question you have been considering will suddenly appear, or a moment of deep appreciation for something simple will arise unbidden. Your challenge is to schedule just 10 minutes of pure solitude and silence today. Find a quiet room, sit in your car, or simply step outside. Set a timer if you need to, and commit to doing nothing but being present with your own thoughts. Do not judge what comes up, whether it feels ordinary or meaningful. Simply notice what thoughts and feelings rise to the surface when you finally stop filling the silence. This small act is a direct investment in your long-term perspective, a quiet declaration that your inner world deserves its own uninterrupted time. All of Stoicism can be boiled down to this one simple, profound command: live according to nature. This is not a call to simply spend more time outdoors, though that can be a lovely practice. It is the ultimate synthesis of everything we have explored, the final piece that locks all the others into a single, powerful framework for a flourishing life. To live in accordance with nature means to live in harmony with two things simultaneously: your own rational human nature and the greater nature of the cosmos itself. The early Stoics defined the goal of life as living in agreement with nature. Zeno himself described it as a consistent flow of life, a harmony between your inner guiding principle and the will of the universe. This is the master blueprint for the long-term perspective we have been building. It means using your gift of reason to navigate the world, fulfilling your innate role as a social being committed to the common good, accepting the unfolding events of the cosmos with resilient trust, and pursuing virtue as the only true good. Every practice we have discussed is a specific application of this single, overarching principle. When you apply the dichotomy of control, you are using your reason to distinguish your own nature from external nature. When you practice Amor Fati, you are accepting the will of the cosmos with love. When you perform your social duties with justice and kindness, you are living in accordance with your inherently cooperative human nature. The view from above aligns your perspective with the vast scale of universal nature, while the evening review uses reason to align your daily actions with your core principles. This is not a collection of separate tips, it is a unified way of being where every thought and action is measured against a single question: is this in harmony with nature? Think of a master musician in a great orchestra. Their personal nature is their skill with their instrument, their years of practice and disciplined technique. The greater nature is the symphony itself, the composition, the conductor's guidance, and the harmony of all the other players. The musician flourishes not by playing whatever they feel like in the moment, but by blending their individual excellence perfectly with the grander musical whole. To play out of tune or out of time would be to act against nature, both their own and the symphony's. Your life is that orchestra. Your reason is your instrument, your virtues are your technique, and the cosmos is the magnificent score you are meant to play in harmony with. So now we arrive at the culminating question, one that brings this entire journey into the present moment. Based on all you have learned, what is one change you can make, starting today, to live more in accordance with your own rational and social nature? This journey through Stoic mental conditioning has redefined your relationship with challenge itself, transforming obstacles from roadblocks into the very materials for building resilience. You have learned to re-center your control firmly within your own judgments and actions, while embracing external events with a love of fate. Each principle, from the clarifying filter of the dichotomy of control to the urgent gratitude of remembering our shared human journey, serves a single purpose: to construct a perspective that sees your entire life as a coherent, meaningful story. This is not about avoiding feeling, but about building a foundation so strong that your peace remains undisturbed by the passing seasons of circumstance. Seneca captured the ultimate result of this work with elegant simplicity, writing that a mind properly ordered is a fortress beyond the reach of all earthly turmoil. This tranquility is the fruit of a long-term perspective, the quiet harbor that allows you to navigate any sea. These practices are not a temporary solution but a lifelong discipline, a daily commitment to crafting your character. The path forward begins with a single, conscious choice. Which one Stoic principle will you invite into your life this week? Will you start with the evening review to end your days with clarity, or practice the dichotomy of control to release a specific worry? Share your chosen practice in the comments below, and let us build a community dedicated to this timeless art of living. Subscribe for more guidance as we continue exploring how to build a life of purpose and unshakable calm.